In 2019, we began to build our dream.
But the journey started long before you were invited to watch.
We walked a path that spanned nearly 2 decades.
There were times of joy, pain, and everything in between.
Our lives have completely changed, and we're ready to tell you how it happened.
We're not holding back.
Our mistakes, regrets,
What we wish we could change, our best decisions.
and if we do it again, you'll hear it all.
Come back in time with us behind the camera and answer the question,
Is self-building worth it? Welcome back to Is Self-Building Worth It? I'm Emily, this is Paul, and we are talking about mowing and burning today. So this is a pretty exciting part of the process. And
Yeah, so we've already cleared the land, we've got our driveway in, and there's lots to talk about here, because if you're somebody that this is your first, you just bought your first piece of land and it's kind of overgrown, how do you decide what trees to take down, what to leave, all that kind of good stuff? So I guess the first resource that most states have is a Department of Natural Resources. Here in Iowa, you can call the conservation office and they will send out one of their specialists for free to walk your property with you, talk about the different types of trees you have on the property, talk about the invasive species that you have on your property, and that is free. And then they will actually prescribe a plan for you on what you should do. Maybe they're prescribing a burn to burn you do burn timber off sometimes. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're saying, hey, you should buy some of these trees to replant. The state of Iowa here, they have a great program where every winter, which I forgot to mention, I just bought a bunch of trees.
oh boy.
So for those of you who are like, you cut all these trees down, took them out, she can attest to this, that I plant trees, lots of them. Yeah. So they will actually, like the state of Iowa has a program where you can go in and buy trees for $1 a piece. Mm-hmm. They have hardwoods, they have pine trees, evergreens. And so that's a service that I would probably bet that most states have. I know here in the Midwest, Illinois, they had it. Here in Iowa where we live, they have it. I actually had them out. We walked the property, talked about the different trees. I told them what my overall goals just for our property was, and they gave me a report on how I should achieve that. So that's a little off of like, how do you, clear out your build site? But if you are completely new to owning a piece of property and you don't know where to start, that's a good place to start.
Yes, and it's really helpful to have somebody who is knowledgeable about your area, your climate, so that you're not doing any guesswork on what types of things are going to do really well on your property, or what kind of goals you're going to achieve, and the time frame for that. Because obviously, like you mentioned, like inexpensive trees and hardwoods, well, for $1, you're getting a tree that's going to take a while to
18 to 24 inches, but that's still a pretty nice tree. And if you can buy a lot for,
you can buy, yes, but that isn't going, like, not all the solutions are going to be like instantaneous or even 5-year solutions. So so just having somebody that can weigh in on what is going to help you achieve something quickly for certain aspects of it, and then also like what's your long-term conservation plan.
So let's just talk about what we cleared, which you saw that we cleared where the house was going to be. We determined where the house was going to go, and for the most part it was all scrub trees. We had a lot of thorn locust trees, which are the locusts with the big old huge thorns on them. So I wanted to basically eradicate all of those off the property because they go through tractor tires, your feet, everything.
Right.
We did have a few trees that were around this big, but I rented a 20 horsepower excavator, which for most of what I had to do was plenty big. I had a couple trees that were, I would say 12 to 18 inch diameter, and I was able to get them down. It just took a long time. So when you go into clearing your property, you need to evaluate what is the average size of the tree that I need to take down. And then if you go into a rental place, they're gonna be able to tell you, hey, this machine will handle that pretty well.
Yeah.
And then you have to think about, how can I do this safety? So if you're taking down a big tree, you don't wanna just do it haphazardly. You wanna attack the roots on each side and then push it away from you. But kind of my thought process was clearing our property as one, I wanted to clear, we like timber, we just don't want it right up next to the house. So we wanted to clear our build site, and then we wanted to have a big yard. And then I also wanted to have space for food plots. I love wildlife, so I wanted to be able to make sure I had place to plant food plots for the birds, the deer, the turkeys, all that. So those are things to consider. Another consideration for us, initially I cleared it back so far, but we learned that our property has a lot of timber rattlesnakes, because part of our property has a lot of rock on it. So I took it a step further, and then I ended up clearing the brush and trees back even further, because I was thinking, okay, if the kids are out running in the yard, at least it gives them more room. We have, in the summer, we have a no one goes in the timber without me rule, just because of that. But those are things to consider. But I think I spent, it was like $550 on the excavator, fuel, to clear probably about 4 acres is what I ended up clearing altogether.
Yeah, which would have handily been a several $1,000 site job.
Yes, and then one thing I did do as I was clearing it, I knew we would have a wood stove in the house. So anything that was a size that I could burn, I would limit, after I got it taken out, I would limit, and then I just made a pile of all of the tree trunks that I was gonna cut up and use for firewood. And from that initial clearing, we literally just ran out of firewood from my initial clearing. So that lasted us 4 years of using the wood stove from doing that.
Yeah.
So that's just something to keep in mind too.
Yep.
Kind of watching through the video. All right, welcome to the Mad County build series. It's June 10th, and I got just a little bit more brush to pile up, and then I can burn it all. It's been dry for about a week now. I'm just watching through this to see if we missed anything. I rented a brush cat, which is a brush mower for a skid steer, and I'm gonna mow all this off that I've cleared to get all the little saplings, the trees, the brush. It'll mow up to like 3-inch diameter tree. So I'm gonna get all that mowed off today. So we're gonna get after it. Do you have anything to say? It's too bad you weren't able to come out here and do more of this with me. Not that you would have enjoyed like a few huge smoky brush piles.
I love myself a little smoke.
I mean, you were at home with 3 babies cleaning up poop, so
right.
What's wrong with a little smoke?
I mean, at that point, we would have had, I think we only had one in diapers at that point. But
oh gosh, it was so difficult.
So difficult.
But anyway, I'm sure most of you, or at least like me, Emily was more of a city girl, but I think you like the whole homesteading aspect now, don't you?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's not something that I gravitate towards naturally. And so but once I get myself outside and I'm doing things, and once I'm in the garden, stuff like that, I really like it.
Yeah. So I would say the land clearing, the brush mowing was probably one of my favorite parts, because that's kind of, I'm sure a lot of you are like me, you want to get out and you want to make something better, and that you're going to see the biggest change in your landscape when you do that. And so I love that, especially the mowing, because you go out there, you get a brush hog, and I mean, you can mow down everything, get it looking nice and clean. You can kind of get a feel for the landscape. And for me, I'm a big bow hunter, so I could start envisioning where the house was going to be and where the food plots were going to be and where my, tree stands were going to be. So that was really fun. But we'll just talk about a couple tips when you're burning. Most counties will have some burning regulations, like when you can and can't burn. So the right thing to do is to go to the county and say, hey, what's your burning ordinance? Can you provide me? Most of them will have a sheet that they can print out, they can give you their burning ordinance. It'll tell you when you can burn, what you have to do when you burn. In most cases, you have to call the fire department, the local 911. They have a non-emergency number. Say, hey, I'm going to be doing a controlled burn. It's going to last from this time to this time. That way they're aware. Because you'll see in this video, I start these 3 huge brush piles. There's a lot of smoke, and neighbors are nosy. People driving down the road, they see a bunch of smoke and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to call 911. Somebody's house is burning. And so by calling and saying, hey, I'm doing a controlled burn, they're aware of that. And then they have your contact number so they can call you and say, hey, is everything okay? Yeah, I'm good. Or no, maybe it's out of control.
Right.
But my preference in burning is I try to start early in the morning, especially if I have a pretty big brush pile, because that will give it a chance to burn down, and then I can push it back up with the skid steer and get it burned down to a point where it's not a danger for me to leave it overnight. Because a brush pile like these is gonna burn for quite a few days. I will tell you, when you're burning these piles, don't just think you can just drive in there with your skid steer and push those piles up while it's still burning. You have to be very careful, because very quickly you could get yourself into trouble. Don't ask me how I know, but you could really easily get hurt bad. So as you're going through these projects, it's fun, it's exciting, but that's when you start to lose focus. Maybe you do some things you're just not thinking because you're so excited. You're like, oh, I'm burning this, and next thing you know, you hit a hole and you tip your skid steer over, and it can happen. It can happen really quick.
Yeah.
So just keep safety in mind when you're doing this, and make sure you check your burden ordinance, because some counties have ordinances, depending on how remote you are, that they'll fine you if they come out and you didn't call. They'll write you a ticket. So I don't know if I have anything else on that, but this was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole process, is just clearing it all out.
Yeah. And I know that it's not feasible for everybody, but I would say that if you can have at least one other person out there with you, that's probably a better option. You were alone, and that's not necessarily ideal. So just having somebody that's gonna either a neighbor that might check on you a couple points throughout the day, or something like that, could be a benefit. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was at home with the kiddies, so they were still really little. So this day would have been most of the building process. If you have really small children, and you have multiple small children, especially that are all going in different directions, you'll find that most of the building process is incredibly dangerous for them. So
yeah, I mean, I had the kids out here quite a bit, but you have to, you just have to, if you're going to do that, you have to understand that it is going to slow things down.
And you can't just bring them out for anything. You're not, you couldn't have just had them here by yourself, and you're burning by yourself, and, and you have 3 kids that are going, each of them picking a brush pile to go walk up to.
Right.
So guys, most of you guys know we do have a Patreon membership where you can join our community of other DIY contractors, other DIY builders, and those that are really just trying to gain some knowledge about the overall process. We do all sorts of different opportunities to chat with us, to ask Paul specific questions about your project. We also have our architectural design firm, which is Back 40 Buildings. We would love to work with you on planning out your Barndominium build, whether it's stick frame, steel frame, or post frame.
Yeah, but the next episode is going to be on laying out your building, and there's lots to talk about in this video, because I made some mistakes because I was trying to save money.
Yep.
And this is going to determine basically how the rest of your build goes.
Yes.
So be sure to come back for that. But as always, we appreciate you watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, share us with your friends, and we'll check you on the next video.